Court Cam gives viewers an in-depth examination of some of the most stunning and emotional courtroom moments caught on camera. The courtroom is supposed to be a place where law and order reign supreme, and for the most part it is. However, there are occasions when it can turn scary, wild, and downright unpredictable. So in this video, we are going to show you the most incredible moments in court. The video is going to be amazing, so make sure you stick to the end. Downright. After seeing downright, 17, grin while the mother of slain Pioneer High School student Jordan Klee wept, Washtenaw County Trial Court Judge David S. Swartz gave prosecutors time to reconsider their plea and sentence agreement for 25 to 52 years in prison. Wright had smiled and shaken his head, seemingly encouraged by a loved one in the courtroom, as Klee's grandfather, weeping mother, Karen Klee, and her cousin addressed him with victim impact statements.
I've lost laughter and love. I no longer have the hope of having grandchildren. I've lost the enjoyment of holidays and birthdays and of everyday life.
They recalled the Pioneer High School students' love of sports, the prom and holidays he'll miss, and the grief they felt in wake of his death. When Wright had a chance to address the court himself, he said he simply wanted his plea and sentence agreement and he'd be home soon. He also said he loved his family and ripped Keon, seemingly referencing 2014 suspected gang-related shooting death of Keon Washington. Swartz sentenced Wright to 50 years in prison for armed robbery, conspiracy to commit armed robbery, and second-degree murder. Jordan Fuss. 6-year-old Santiago Mondragon was in the back seat of his mother's car when speeding. The impaired driver crashed into them, splitting their car in half and killing the child. Broward County Judge Tim Bailey sentenced Jordan Lloyd Fuss, 22, of Davie, to 14 years and 6 months in state prison. Fuss, who was 19 at the time of the crash, was convicted of DUI manslaughter and DUI with serious bodily injury. Fuss knew he was going to prison that afternoon. In response to questions from his lawyer, Patrick Curry, he testified that he was guilty of the crimes and said that at times he has wanted to end his life. Fuss, who works for a family business, cried often during the 3-hour hearing in a courtroom filled with a dozen tearful relatives and friends from each family. As midnight approached on October 3, 2014, Fuss's Infiniti sedan was traveling between 92 and 108 miles per hour in a 45 miles per hour zone at Sterling and Davie roads. His blood alcohol level was 21, nearly 3 times the legal limit of 0.8, according to a police report. Fuss had spent 30 to 60 minutes before the crash playing a drinking game with playing cards called Ring of Fire while consuming Captain Morgan Black Spice rum. Fuss drove with a friend to another friend's house. He testified that he didn't recall speeding, which was captured by red light cameras and reported in witness statements to police. He also said he didn't remember the crash. Prosecutor Patricia Abdi said he sat on a curb, didn't call 911 or check on his passenger, whose femur was broken, or on the victims. Fuss and his relatives apologized to Santiago's parents, Nancy Giraldo and Gustavo Mondragon, who both testified through an interpreter about the depths of their grief. Fuss covered his face when a portrait of the brown-eyed boy with a sweet smile was put on an easel. Curry and Fuss' parents and friends called him extremely remorseful and redeemable and said he has struggled with depression, had himself Baker acted, and has had suicidal thoughts. Abby pointed to 7 of Fuss' Facebook posts from age 14 that described drinking, being hungover, and smoking marijuana, and she said that he had a drink last Christmas. Prosecutor Michael Horowitz told the court that while Fuss was out on bond and his criminal case was pending, Fuss reported using marijuana in October 2016. When handing down his sentence, Bailey said, "There could be no better example of how he got the message and how it changed him forever if he stopped abusing alcohol after that incident." But Fuss told a pre-sentencing investigator that he had drunk heavily for a year after the accident, Bailey said. The court finds the
court imposes the lowest permissible prison sentence allowable by Florida's Criminal Punishment Code, 14.625 years.
Evidence does not support a reduced sentence, the judge said. There was a lot of talk from the young man's family, from Jordan's family, about his psychological makeup, talk of suicide and depression, and how they believe he is redeemable, Bailey said. The purpose of prison is to punish. That sounds cold. That sounds mean. It's in the Florida statute. I'm not sending the young man to prison to rehabilitate him. Curry asked that Fuss be declared indigent for appeal of his sentence, which Bailey granted. Davie Police S. Mark Leone was among 7 Davie officers and traffic homicide investigators who filled the back row in the courtroom to witness the judge's ruling. Before we move on, support us by hitting subscribe and the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. Now let's get back to our topic. Cameron Herron. A young driver was sentenced to 24 years in prison for a street racing crash that killed a 24-year-old mother and her 1-year-old daughter on Bayshore Boulevard in 2018.
I've been privileged to practice this profession that I love for over 45 years. This is the case.
A judge handed down the sentence to Cameron Herron, 21, after hours of testimony from witnesses, including Herron's family members, friends, a former circuit court judge, and a forensic psychiatrist. Herron pleaded guilty in December to vehicular homicide and unlawful racing on a highway after hitting and killing Jessica Reisinger-Robinault and her daughter, Lilia. Authorities said Herron was racing along Bayshore at more than 100 miles per hour in a Mustang and hit Reisinger-Robinault as she was pushing her child in a stroller. Herron was 18 at the time of the crash. John Barronneau, the other driver involved, pleaded guilty to his role and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Barronneau was 17 when it happened. The crash sparked an outcry from the community and led to changes on Bayshore Boulevard, including more stoplights and a reduced speed limit. Herron's defense attorney asked a judge on Thursday to consider his client's age and called witnesses to speak on Herron's character. "I think you've shown a lack of accountability. I think you have shown zero remorse," said David Robinault, the victim's husband and the child's father. The maximum sentence is appropriate for the horrendous nature of the crime and the death of two beautiful innocent girls. TJ Lane, the teenager convicted of killing 3 students at an Ohio high school in a shooting rampage last year, has been sentenced to life in prison without parole. Lane, who pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and other charges, appeared in a Chardon court wearing a white t-shirt with the word killer written on it. During the hearing, Lane also gave the courtroom the middle finger. The 3 students who were wounded and relatives of the slain students were offered the chance to address the judge before the sentencing. Relatives of the slain students indicated earlier they want Lane to get the maximum sentence. On February 26, Lane pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. Daniel Parmenter and Demetrius Hewlin, with 16, and Russell King Jr., 17, were killed in the February 27, 2012 rampage. 3 others were seriously injured. Lane could not have received the death penalty because he was 17 at the time of the crimes. Lane attended an alternative school for students who haven't done well in traditional schools. He was at Chardon High School waiting for a bus there when he opened fire. Trey Ralphord. A judge held a formal sentencing hearing for Trey Ralphord. Ralphord pleaded guilty last month to his role in the murder of Salahuddin Jitmud. On April 19, 2015, Jitmud delivered a pizza to the Walnut Hill apartment complex on Trent Circle Road. Someone stabbed Jitmud to death and robbed him. Investigators found the 22-year-old lying in a breezeway of an apartment complex. Lexington police arrested 3 people for the crimes. A grand jury chose only to indict Ralphord for murder, tampering with evidence, and robbery. On October 26, Ralphord pleaded guilty to complicity to murder, complicity to robbery, and attempted evidence tampering. Jitmud's family spoke in court during Ralphord's sentencing. Dr. Salmet Jitmud described his son as gentle, generous, and shy. His father told the courtroom on the night his son died.
The devil, who misguiding you and misleading you to do such a horrible crime. No, I don't blame you. I'm not angry at you at all.
He had one more delivery to make before coming home. Dr. Jitmud spoke to Ralphord, saying he did not blame him for his son's death, and that he forgave him on behalf of his son. Before he left the stand, Dr. Jitmud made one last plea to Ralphord to let the police know who cut his son's throat. It was a request that led to an emotional moment in court for the judge, who called for a recess. When the proceeding resumed, Ralphord's mother took the stand. Ralphord himself stood up in court and addressed the victim's family. His message ended with Ralphord and his family embracing Dr. Jitmud and his family. In the end, the judge sentenced Ralphord to 31 years in prison. So that's it. Please like, share, and comment with your thoughts below if you like this video. Remember to subscribe to see our next video. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.